Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Dan DeFrancesco, lead writer for the BI Today newsletter. Wherever you're watching us from, thanks so much for joining. So Hollywood's been on a bit of a heater this summer. Two recent blockbusters got people to come out to the theaters in a big way: Spider-Man Brand New Day and The Odyssey. The two movies, which were released within 2 weeks of each other, had the biggest openings of the year, and it represents the strongest two-movie box office pairing since everyone's favorite combo, Barbenheimer, the Barbie and Oppenheimer combo, which also sounds like shaving cream. Movies with much smaller budgets also found incredible success. There was Obsession and Backrooms, both directed by young creators who cut their teeth on YouTube. They absolutely crushed it at the box office. But now the question is, can Hollywood keep that momentum going? So to break it all down, I'm joined by MoviePass CEO and co-founder Stacy Spikes. Stacy, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so really excited about this conversation. Before we get into it, just a reminder, we'd love to hear from you. We want this to be interactive, so just drop your questions in the chat and we'll be sure to get to them. But I wanted to start off, we're talking big pictures, so let's look at the big picture, Stacy. What's one word to describe how incredible the summer movie season has been?
Big.
Perfect.
We're tracking to meet or beat 2019 numbers. One of the big things is seeing how premium large formats, your IMAXs or what they call PLFs, are performing. So a lot of people were saying, oh, tickets are so expensive. But now 50% of the box office is these larger, more expensive tickets. So people are finding value, they're going more, and young people are rediscovering cinema. And I think we're past that streaming bubble, and people want to go back and do something exciting that's out of home that they can do that's really not an expensive ticket, and we see it.
How much of this do you feel was expected and how much is a surprise? Because you look at something like The Odyssey, obviously there was a trailer came out I think over a year ago, right? We knew this was coming. Something like Obsession kind of blows up out of nowhere. So was this what kind of a lot of insiders had penciled as this is going to be a big year, or is this even exceeding the best expectations they had?
It's exceeding the best expectations. People were conservative in predicting that we may come within 5 or 10% of 2019. So we're exceeding that. I think you get a rated R, long form movie, a historical. This wasn't Batman. So people didn't know exactly what The Odyssey could do. And it's crushing records, even for Christopher Nolan. So, and then Spider-Man out the gate, biggest movie in history. And we still have some bangers that are down in the fourth quarter that aren't here yet. So I think you're looking at a really strong year. And like you talked about your Obsessions and your Backrooms, you've got these mid-tier films that are crushing it as well. So everything is hitting on all pistons, as we like to say.
Right. We love to see it for the Hollywood insiders. We love it. So let's start with The Odyssey, right? Made $1.3 billion, IMAX highest grossing movie, and really a cultural phenomenon in a way that I feel like we haven't had in a while. Everyone was talking about it. You got to go see it. You guys were able to share some data. So among MoviePass reservations, it retained 79% of its opening week demand in its second week, and over 30% were repeat viewers. So really monster numbers there. I guess, as you say, ultimately though, it is a Christopher Nolan movie. So is it just, that's a Christopher Nolan movie, it's a blockbuster, it's kind of like its own thing, it's an outlier? Or is this something that Hollywood can kind of look at and think about, okay, now how can we replicate? How can we kind of reverse engineer and have another Odyssey next summer?
Yeah, I mean, we're starting to see more original IP do better than the dangerous ones are, say, the Spider-Man, number 3, 4, 5, 6. Those tend to, we saw how terrible Moana did, right? So it's cautionary tale that just because you're using the same IP and warming it up again, it doesn't mean they're gonna go.
It needs to be 3,000-year-old IP.
It
needs to go way, way back.
Exactly.
That's the goal.
Exactly. So, and The Odyssey is something people have told several times. It was a swing at something that is kind of shows up every 30 years or so in a remake, and it was hit or miss. And even with all the controversy, even up to opening weekend, no one knew. Because the pre-sales were on a limited number of screens, those IMAX only, and it was sold out. So we really didn't know what was going to happen, but then it crushed it.
Right. So we put up a reader poll, and I think we can put it up now, as far as how many times people have gone to the movies. So interesting mix, right? You know, 0, not great, 34%, but 47%, 1 to 3, and then kind of trickles down from there. And I think the Odyssey is interesting because it gets to what was a big argument in the poll that we had, which is some people argue, well, my home setup is just as good as you get in the theater. I'm sure you hear this all the time, right? So Brad Jennings was, I think, the top comment of the poll, said, why would I want to watch the same movie on a big screen at home? No annoying people making noise or blocking the screen. I can pause it if I have to go to the restroom, which I'm sure is exactly how Christopher Nolan wants his movie to be watched. And then Gary Lear, God bless Gary Lear, said the last time him and his wife went to the movie was in 1985 to see Police Academy. So we got to try to get Gary back in the theater. But you know, a big piece of the Odyssey was you have to see it in the theaters. My dad used to talk about movies that, like, you got to go see this. You know, the F1s and the Top Guns of the world. So Hollywood's always obviously considering how to get people in the theater, but is this just another example of even more so creating movies that are specifically special to see in the theater? And is that a strategy that's, you know, you can't continue to just make $250 million blockbusters, right? So how do you navigate the fact that the big complaint that you see from people that are staying away from theaters is, well, it's just as good as home?
Yeah, so there's a really important horseshoe shape among age demographic. So what you get is dating period, you get people who go out to the movies. Then the minute they get married and have kids, they fall off a cliff. You and I talked about
that's where I'm at right now. Right? I'm in that canyon.
Yeah, and so there's a dip, and then as it comes out, the teenagers start going to the movies, and then either the parents go back to the movies or they just stay out of it. So it depends on who you're asking. So 75% of box office, 50 to 75% is young people. So when you're asking that, it's important to know who you're asking because they're in different life cycles. If they say, I've got young kids at home, their numbers are gonna be, you know, virtually 0. So that's one part of it. And then the other part is overall, we are seeing a lift in people going to the movies. We're seeing the movie industry hit on all pistons, your blockbusters, your mid-tiers, and your art house and independents. Before we were talking about the two big ones, we talked about Obsession and Backrooms, and then you have things like The Invite and the drama. You have these, so all along the way, and you're getting a lot of the cast who's in both ends of that spectrum. So I've never seen Hollywood hitting on so many different categories at the same time successfully. Really unheard of.
Right. Is there any way to coax those people in the bottom of the U out? You know, I'm saying as someone who would love to get out of the U. I don't know, free babysitters at movie theaters. I know I saw, I think, a piece about people, you know, kid-friendly or baby-friendly showings. But is that something that Hollywood has just kind of acknowledged that it's just really tough for those people, you know, family-wise, or is there a way to kind of solve that fix?
It's hard. There's been, you know, there's two aspects. There's the theaters and what they can do. So many theaters like Regal had a mommy shows where they kept the lights on and they actually had a stroller parking area and they were doing that. At one point they started to add playrooms, like jungle rooms that you could have your kids in there and go in the movie. So they've experimented a lot, but I think it's easier to get content that just works for a certain demographic, focus on that, instead of trying to make it happen at the theater level. The structural changes in a theater just haven't worked the way they hoped that they would. So people are starting to get back to stick to your knitting, make great movies. They'll get people in theaters.
Right. Let's talk about Spider-Man. Over 2 billion worldwide, like you said, monster opening. I think what stood out to me about it is it felt like it was a little bit of a drag with superhero movies. We were in a little bit of a lull where people were kind of, you know, after Endgame, people were like, oh, Marvel Cinematic Universe, there's just so much. It was a little bit of a downer. This is obviously the complete opposite of that. Is that because they did something differently with this movie, or because Spider-Man, a little bit of a league of his own?
Bit of a league of its own, has always done really good. The character is something that really gets one of the things that was interesting, so I'm at the movies every weekend, and
I would
so
hope.
yeah. So when you looked at Supergirl, I didn't see a lot of kids out for Supergirl. With Spider-Man, literally in the lobby, there were summer day camps with all of the kids wearing their, summer camp T-shirts, and they're bringing them in. I think there was one quasi curse word in the whole movie, and so it's designed knowing for an audience that's really massive. Where Supergirl was kind of so trash mouthy, you weren't going to get young kids in it. And here's this young lady, and she's playing a Joan Jett badass, and so they know what they have with Spider-Man, whether it's the Spideyverse or whatever they're playing to. He's a teenager largely, and so they know that demo and they go for it, and they hit it pretty well.
Yeah, you can't play the Deadpool game. There's only kind of one Deadpool. Like, you can't really replicate that.
Exactly.
Let's look at the two movies combined, right? Again, more data from MoviePass here. So nearly 1 in 4 Spider-Man viewers also saw the Odyssey. So a lot of overlap there. I guess, does this signal a little bit of less of a special treat and more of everyone's kind of making a habit of going to the movies, or are these two a little bit of outliers because they're just so massive blockbusters that they're kind of the exception to the rule?
I think in the summer you're getting parents and people with a little more time off. Similar to Barbenheimer, I've heard this one is called Spidacy. And so this, you're getting, is there a Tom Cruise movie and a this, and you're getting those two, you got 3 months off and you got 2 movies and they're gonna go see 2. And so I think you're seeing that's becoming a pattern. So you always have that one big summer blockbuster, and that started really with Jaws back forever ago. And now you're seeing 2s and 3s, and they're planning them, and you're getting people who are like, hey, it's the summer, I haven't been, and they're gonna go and spend that time. And Hollywood's doing a really good job of making sure there's something for them to eat.
Do you get the sense, either from the data that you see or the conversations you have, that Odyssey did, because it was a couple of weeks earlier, it did feed a little bit into Spider-Man, that maybe the folks who went out to see Odyssey were like, oh yeah, I forgot, like, movies are fun. This is great. We're watching with people. Let's go see Spider-Man too.
It did the same thing. And remember, the last one with Barbenheimer was also Christopher Nolan. So you had people who went through that experience and went ahead and went to something else. And Spider-Man's pretty low risk. And so, yeah, I think you're getting overlap from that as well.
Right. Yeah. So we have a question here from Victoria in Paris. We're worldwide. We're global here. She has a question about Gen Z, which is great because I want to get into obsession and backgrounds. But how does the panel explain that Gen Z is going back to the cinema in big numbers? That's a trend in France. The US, has Gen Z got tired of scrolling, or is there another explanation? So why is Gen Z, you talked about that, why is Gen Z falling in love with the movies again or for the first time?
Yeah, so what we found was social media and streaming, you could get people who say, oh yeah, I saw it. Did you see all of it? Did you watch part of it? And we saw among the younger and online, there was a desire to authenticate that you were there, that your social media was about an activity that you were actually at, your IRL event.
Experiential is big now.
So why did Beyonce and Taylor Swift, even though they were in the middle of tours, have concert films in the middle? Because they want to make sure that they can get being IRL gives you a credibility. There's another thing, I always tell people to take this test. Name 5 directors who are movie theater only or cinema only directors, right? You can say Christopher Nolan, Spike Lee, Martin Scorsese, blah, 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 blah. Then name 5 streaming directors. They only do streaming. You can't think of anyone.
Right.
So also for the career of actors and or directors, you need to do event pictures to have a longer career. If not, you don't build that branding with the audience. We always say that movie going is like going to concerts. So you have a different experience when you saw a band live.
Right.
And that's what going to the movies is.
I think, and Victoria, this is also will help kind of elaborate on the point. Is some more great data from MoviePass here. So with Obsession, right, the biggest kind of monster. So again, $750,000 budget. almost 500 million at the box office. It feels like a typo. It feels like I'm saying something wrong, but that's the actual numbers. So opening weekend to week 2 retains 94.8% of its reservation numbers. Goes to 100.5 for week 3, which is exactly your point of like, people on social, have you seen Obsession? Have you seen Obsession? Well, now I need to see it. It's the FOMO effect, right? You know, and then Backrooms, obviously, it was also a little bit more front-loaded, but 24.8%, 25% return for another showing. A lot of the overlap, again, between people who saw Obsession, also saw the Odyssey or Spider-Man. But I think, well, first, let's take a step back. And I should say, also, with Backrooms, $10 million budget, only $400 million at the box office. You know, come on, Backrooms. First, put into context, how incredible of a success story were both these movies?
They have triple success. One, you are in your lead up, you're seeing YouTubers who were testing the products online, building an audience, and then crossing that audience over and bringing them to an event. There was also earlier in the year Iron Lung. There was last year Weapons. These were all things that had online communities that they crossed over, and they are, based on ROI, killing it, right? The ROIs are ridiculous with these titles. So that's new. I mean, hitting that big and getting, sure, you have a nice few base hits, maybe you do 100 million, but when we're seeing 500, 600, 700 on something that was 1/10 that, it does look like a typo.
It's incredible. So I guess that leads to the next question, which is copycat league, right? Hollywood, we talked about sequels before. Are YouTube creators now getting inundated from Hollywood types being like, do you want to make a movie? Do you want, because everyone wants the next Obsession, right?
Yeah. So Hollywood is always looking for something that has traction somewhere already, whether it's a book, whether it's a character that someone created online, whether it's skits. We've always seen that. And so now it's a place that filmmakers can really experiment and really get their traction down and figure it out. And they're getting direct feedback, and they have a live focus group. And once they get the sauce right, they can go to a studio and go, look at the kind of traction that I have. Same thing with publishing. Publishing wants to know your book has traction. So I think it's very similar to what we used to see the same thing with the TV show. You'd have an independent TV show or something that was on cable in smaller channels or smaller markets. Second City Television and Saturday Night Live, they were these petri dishes of things that ultimately became movies. And so I think it's kind of the same. They're looking for traction somewhere, and they're now finding it on YouTube.
Right. Yeah, I think the other thing too, Andrew in the UK pointed this out, feels like horror is really having a moment, which like horror is always, I feel like, a good bet, but specifically and certainly with Backrooms and Obsession, feels like it's really kind of elevating itself as a good bet. Yeah,
so horror used to be drop it in October, right? And you're gonna get October, November. And then it was ink up to the summer a little bit, and now horror literally is year round. So there's a Christmas Santa Claus film that's coming out that is, again, horror genre. And so now horror's playing all year round. That's the really big difference, is there is no season anymore for horror. Horror's all year long. Opposite end of the spectrum, kids movies. So two ends of the spectrum, two tails of the tape. Toy Story 5, massive success. You mentioned Moana, not so much. What feels like it's working really well for the audience, and what feels like it's not? You know, you can't fake it. It's really got to connect. You can't just warm things up and reheat them and reserve them. Moana was not different enough than what it had done the last 2 times, and I think you saw that at the box office. Plus, you had something like Toy Story, which gave a really unique point of view. It was dealing with kids playing with, analog and digital, and they did a really good job of meshing them together. They didn't create what some movies try and do and make digital and evil and analog the only thing. They did a great job of mixing that, and the story worked. So it's still not a perfect science, but you do the best you can.
overarching theme of Hollywood, it's been tough. It's been tough at the movie theaters, and obviously this has been a big one. Do you feel like this is a sign of the changing of tides, the changing of the guards? Is this sustainable? Because ultimately, right, the two headliners, you're not going to get a Christopher Nolan movie every year. You're not going to get Spider-Man every year.
Yeah.
But you've kind of talked about how you feel like the old broadening trends. I guess, why do you feel like this is sustainable, the success we've had this summer?
Yeah, so what we've never seen, there isn't anything this right now, but if you know Ni Zha 2, which came out of China, now I think it's either number 1 or number 2 highest grossing animation film of all times. So that's an example where you're getting foreign language film that they're able to use AI tools to adapt to English language. You saw Godzilla 0-1. That set all-time record for the highest grossing film out of Japan. So we've never seen like the whole, like your international, all along the food chain, from your blockbusters to your mid-tiers to your indies. Everything's hitting on pistons. So it's like we're really figuring out what works and getting back to market fast with content. And it used to take, you had a successful movie, it took you 5 years to get another one out. And you're seeing that window be 2 years, right? And so I think Hollywood's getting things out faster, better, and catching up with everything.
Yeah. Let's take a look ahead. You mentioned some big ones coming down. Q4. Big one is Avengers Doomsday at the end of the year. We also have Dune 3. Tom Cruise is going to be in a movie where he's not Ethan Hunt or Maverick. What stands out to you as far as for the viewers to keep an eye out for this last quarter?
Yeah, I mean, those 3 are the big ones. There's still a lot of independent fare. You're going to get a ton of your Oscar traffic that's still quiet. They haven't, gone Periscope and started broadcasting because it's expensive. You don't want to waste your money out in the summer when you're still too far out. Hang back for your Academy campaign. So you're going to see that starting late October. And so there's just so much content. Now, I don't know the total number of releases, but it used to average around 300 a year. And I think we're starting to max 500 releases a year just for the domestic audiences alone.
Yeah, it's also interesting. We had a story, Juliana Kaplan on our economy team had a story today about Dune Part 3 fans camping out to buy tickets, and there were some issues, but I'm sure the same thing's going to be the end game. So it's also interesting. Hopefully those are people that are going to watch the movie and not resell the tickets. I'm a little bit worried about that, but
that's a good sign, though.
Yeah, look, I mean, tickets are.
If somebody's going to pay $1,000 to see Spider-Man in the Odyssey, like, okay.
Yeah, for sure.
I got a pair of tickets if you want them. So come see me.
There you go.
Yeah.
We don't want to let you go without talking about your own company, obviously, MoviePass. Our own Jason Gracio has covered the company extensively, had a big definitive story about kind of the rise and fall. We also have the Emmy-nominated HBO documentary, MoviePass, Movie Crash. You kind of reacquired it, relaunched it in fall of 2022. Yeah. What's the latest? What's been the latest with MoviePass?
Yeah, so the classic company, what we call the classic side of the subscription business, is hitting really great. And then we also have an entirely new division that we're creating, which is called Mogul, which is a gaming division about the movie industry as a game that's in the speculative entertainment space. So a lot of what you see with prediction markets and also with what they call DFS, daily fantasy sports, like your FanDuels and DraftKings, no one's ever built that for the movie industry. So we have that coming, and we released it in the fourth quarter last year and got a flood of people that became players. US, Asia, and India were our top 3 markets. And so now we're gonna, this fourth quarter, roll that out. And that's a whole new pivot for the company. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I know everyone loves their Oscar pools and stuff like that.
Right.
So that definitely leans into that. It's also interesting because I know in general around kind of predictions around box office and stuff, it's been a little bit of a weird area where like there haven't been a lot of those because there were some laws or something like that.
So
right?
it's against the law to actually bet on box office.
Right.
So you can't. So what ours is more similar to daily fantasy sports. You are a studio head, but you get to make up your own roster. So you pick the films that you think are going to perform. So my portfolio and your portfolio, we compete. We have a salary cap, but we can pick movies, actors, and directors. And so then we're competing that way. So that's what ours is.
Right, that's
Yeah.
fun. All right, what's
Yeah.
your fantasy team name?
Mine is called Trinity Studios, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
My
nice.
daughter's middle name is Trinity, so that's
There
what
you
that's
go.
for.
Very
Yeah.
wholesome. Very good.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, let's just do quick fire, some fun stuff. So first, the question you always want to know about going to movies: what's your favorite movie snack?
I'm gonna go with popcorn and soda.
Classic.
I'm classic. I'm not a big goobers guy inside the popcorn.
I was gonna say you mix and match. Or no?
I'm pretty boring. I'll just go give me good popcorn and soda, but it's got to be good and warm. So
All right.
yeah.
We talked about a lot of 2026 movies. What's been your favorite so far?
You know, somebody asked me this question. I'm gonna say, what was I most surprised at?
Okay.
Okay. So surprise, like, oh my God, I can't believe I just had that experience, was Obsession. And Obsession was just, okay, we're gonna do a horror movie. There's gonna be some boos and gotchas and ahas. And I was floored. I had popcorn, and I swear I didn't get to eat it because I kept going. Right? So that's a good sign if I didn't get to finish my popcorn.
I will also say I'm not a big horror guy.
Yeah.
Stacy and I were talking before. My wife is, and I still watched it and I loved it. I mean, Indy Navarrette's performance is incredible,
Yeah.
absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth it. If you don't like scary movies, it's still worth
Yeah.
checking out. What about, this is a tough one, but all-time favorite movie? Anyone that really stands out?
There's a quote that I love. People who like movies have favorites. People who love movies can't possibly. But so I'll say that there's a few. I love Lawrence of Arabia. I'm a big Star Wars fan. The early stuff, The Matrix, Lord of the Rings.
Sure.
You know, all of those. They're all like classic. I can just sit there and put them on in the background and do housework all day to them.
What about the first one you remember seeing? Obviously, theater's a big part of your job, but what's the one that you said, like, wow, this is something?
I was a little kid, and I think my first movie, it was a Disney film, and I want to say it was Dumbo.
Okay.
I think my parents took me and my brother to see that.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice. And then we talked about the movie tickets. What's the most you would spend on a movie ticket?
Yeah, you know, I'm the type, I'm a wait. I'm not gonna go crazy, but I also will go. If it opens Friday, I'm like a Thursday night person, so
Okay.
I'll do that. I will get up and get tickets in advance. We definitely don't use the platform to go behind anything. I am a proud MoviePass member, and I use it.
Sure. I would hope.
Yes.
That would be a little strange if you
I
weren't.
never use my product. But it's really fun to have kind of a card, and you just like, I go.
Sure.
So I'm a 2 to 3 movies a week person. Yeah. So
Wow.
I usually will do 2 on the weekend and maybe 1 doubleheader or something else during the week.
Do you have because seat selection came up big with Odyssey, with IMAX. Do you have a preference of where in the theater you like?
Center.
Center.
Yeah.
Okay.
Center from the back and center. The sound is actually designed, the speakers all point to the center of the room. So if there's, I'm actually thinking of writing a book called How to Watch Movies.
You got one pre-order right here.
I got one pre-order. But actually, if you want something like, if you saw Sinners was a music film, right? It was almost a musical. Well, that you want to see in Dolby, right? Dolby is about sound. If you need the big picture, you want IMAX. And then when you're looking for different experiences, like some things that are 3D, so you have to go different places. And I always say you wouldn't go see jazz at Madison Square Garden, and you wouldn't go see a jazz quartet. You wouldn't go see Taylor Swift at, the Blue Note.
Right.
So you need the right film at the right venue. Another thing is, if you go see a kid's film, don't go see it at 8 or 10 o'clock at night. Go at 2 in the afternoon when the kids are seeing it. You get a totally different experience than if you see it when adults are seeing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I love it. We're going to end on some movie tips from Stacy. So, look, we'll leave it there. Stacy, thanks so much for being here. We'll have to get you back for maybe Oscar season. We'll talk through some nominations. And thanks to all you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.